You're ready, Holmes.
That's what you were looking for, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I told. Welcome to Proudland. That was Beatbox Master Cyphus. I told him to give me a beat to bring it in, but then he started, and I just kind of wanted to see what would happen, and that was what we got. So you'll know to never ask Cyphus for a beat again, because that wasn't.
That's not what you're looking for?
You know what? I'm not sure what I was looking for, but I know it didn't even resemble whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Well, so, when you have talents like I do, sometimes it's hit and miss. You're rolling the dice every time.
Well, sometime you should bring one of your talents on the show.
I will. I'll try next week.
Okay, thank you. So Roland has a child now.
Yep.
And as we agreed before the show, we were going to say the .p child wellness prayer. If you would join me, just repeat after me.
Okay.
Roland is with child.
Roland is with child.
Let it eat its salsa hot, not mild.
Let it eat its salsa hot, not mild.
Amen. Okay, all right, so we can move on. So this week on Proudland, as Roland would say it, God rest his soul, for he is dead, we are going to be covering what the fuck is in a build. Let me tell you, can I tell them a little story, Cyphus, about me?
Sure, I'd love to hear a story about you.
So I'm a young boy, and in my life, I've seen many builds. I've walked through the wastelands, and I see the destitute, the downtrodden, with their brown boots battle furies, or their phase boot double vanguards, and I say, no, my children, you must not play like shit. And so I decided to start this, Cyphus.
What about Invoker Mask of Madnesses?
What about it?
Or Masks of Madness?
Yeah, 2 is good.
Yeah. I saw one of those the other day. It was
nice.
That's pretty jokey.
That's an easy build, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it didn't feel right. I felt violated. I felt like I needed to show people. I felt like I needed to show people where the Mask of Madness touched me. That's what I felt like afterwards.
Yeah, well, it would probably be on the face, because otherwise you're not using it right.
Yeah. So what goes into a build? I don't know.
All right. We're gonna break this down. We're gonna break this down a little bit. We're gonna deliver it in a few parts. So obviously, what goes into a support build is not the same as what goes into your safe laner build, what goes into your mid laner build, what goes into your off laner, or like a different kind of support. If a spirit breaker is going to be a vastly different kind of support than say an oracle or an omni knight is going to be vastly different from El Leon, as we call him on this show.
I thought it was Leon.
No.
Oh. Well, I guess I'm wrong.
Right. So Cyphus, we'll use you as a little bit of a test dummy.
Okay.
On the dummy.
Yeah. Not the test.
Nah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. All right. So let's say let's look at Sven. That's a common thing to look at on this show. Sven is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Worst hero, garbage hero. Yep.
Total shit. Anyway, the build on Sven, right? Let's break it down a little bit. So the first thing you get on Sven is you have your regen items and all that shit, but that's not really important. You have like the stout shield, and the coiling blade is mostly for last hits, although it will later be used just to kind of farm. So we won't look too closely at that. The stout shield we will kind of talk about a little bit, because why do you get a stout shield on Sven, Cyphus? Do you know?
To be able to tank some creep hits when you're up there, and some right clicks from your enemies when you're up there in the melee range of the wave.
So kind of keep you in the lane, keep you strong. It's a nice little, it allows you to do you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we can assert that one of the first things that every hero needs to take care of is that they need to be survivable enough to do their shit. You need to meet this baseline of efficacy, and there are very small items that are very efficient at getting there. Like Sven buys a stout shield to just make sure that he can right click anything near the creep wave. So in the event that, he does want to kind of break on through to the other side kind of thing, like, all right, there's a lot of creeps in between me and the other guy, but I want to fucking kill that other guy. So I'm just going to do it anyway. And Stout Shield kind of lets you do that. You can tank under tower. You can just do Sven things. You can make sure that you can play the lane without being heavily restricted. So that's kind of the first thing that we want to take care of. And that kind of extends to all of our first little starting items before maybe the big one. But there's like a couple little, I want to say, a couple paths that you want to go down, or a couple kind of slots that you want to fill. So there's the like kind of a bit of the survivability stuff with Stout Shield is good. The Quelling Blade is just to help you last hit, and on other heroes, you may do something else for that. Like on Drow Ranger, oftentimes I see people just start with a goddamn Wraith Band just to give you enough damage and round you out, so that you're just tanky enough to not be blown over by a strong wind, and you have enough damage to last hit and all that shit. And like when I play Luna, oftentimes I'll start with a Ring of Protection and immediately get it into a Sage's Mask, and then that +7 damage is my kind of like last hitting, and then the armor from that is enough that I can tank creeps and that sort of thing a little bit. So the first thing you want to look for on your hero is you want that baseline level of survivability that you can do your stuff in the lane just in case anything kind of goes wrong a little bit. If you're by
do your stuff in the lane, I mean, when you're talking, I mean, we're using Sven as the example here, right? So,
sure.
Do you just mean farm, or we're using a carry as an example? What you mean in that moment is so that you can continue farming.
Sure, yeah, that you can farm, you can stay in the lane, you can battle if your lane is being contested at all. Just anything you'd want to do in the laning phase, be it, tank creeps for someone, tank creeps under tower, like continue to farm in the lane, battle up against the enemy, not get harassed out, in seconds. That is kind of what the Stout Shield and the Quelling Blade and like, your first boot item that you get, like that's what those are for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes 100% sense. And I mean, I guess, but survivability, is that the first thing on the minds of supports as well? I mean, do you play by the same token there?
I would say for the most part you kind of do, but since supports aren't going to be like tanking creeps at all, and oftentimes the only amount of trading they're going to do is like trading with other heroes, and it'll never really be, I mean, like your support Rubik is not going to be, right clicking the enemy Faceless Void's face, right? He's gonna maybe walk up, throw a couple auto attacks to Faceless Void, and then walk away. So the kind of the best way for a support to deal with those sort of things, like he's not as tanky as Sven at all. He doesn't, Rubik doesn't want to face tank anything. The best way for Rubik to have that, survivability and make sure that he's not harassed out of lane or killed or something like that to keep him threatening is your boots, right? Like boots are going to do more for Rubik in that regard, or Windlace and that sort of thing. That's why you see a lot of people who start Windlace. But boots and Windlace are going to do a lot more to let the support kind of do their shit. And that what their shit in the lane is for a support is, stacking and pulling, harassing out the enemy offlaners or, whatever lane that they're in that they want to harass out, and
being able to switch between those two things as swiftly and efficiently as possible, which makes sense with speed.
Yeah, and then get back in case they're being there's like some retaliation going on or something like that, or they're trying to get a kill and they need to be fast to get them with the element of surprise popping out of some trees and get a lift off or something like that. Yeah, so like everything that a support wants to do in the lane is basically dependent on their boots. It's like really just boots and regen is almost all the support needs, unless they're absurdly squishy or something like that. And I don't know, like let's say Pudge really needs like Tranquil is really early on. I mean, that's still the boot item, but yeah, no, I mean that's you just need your fucking boot item honestly as a support.
Yeah, and that kind of equates to getting your shit done in lane. Yeah, I totally get it.
Okay. All right, and then for offlaners, it's basically the same thing as the carry. Although if you're, I guess it's similar to both a support and a carry for what you want to get first. Although for the most part these days now, the support, I mean, what to do your shit in lane as an offlaner, that essentially means to jungle, which means just do whatever you need to do to get your Iron Talon. And then from there, you want to get boots because you want to do your camp. And then if the lane is pushing up, you want to get there as soon as possible. Maybe you have to go jungle, like in your actual jungle instead of just the offlane camp, or maybe they're pulling, you need to go contest or whatever. Like whatever you need to do on the offlaner, get what you need to do the offlane camp, aka your Iron Talent if you need to. Get enough that you can trade with enemy supports, whether that be a stout shield or just a bunch of regen. And then you just want the mobility to go between the things you're going to do. So in general, like a common theme here, the only person that I would maybe slightly delay the boots on is the safe laner, just because, and really just for the quelling blade. After your quelling blade or whatever you need to make sure that you're last hitting, you really just want to get your boots immediately. Like there's, the support needs to go back and forth between doing things, but similarly, the offlaner may try to kill your support when they're doing things. So you want to have boots to be able to swap between doing your shit in lane, which is last hitting and dealing with the creep wave and all that shit, and then go over to actually like help the offlaner get that kill, or whatever is going on in their little support area.
Right. So, is there any other situation where you would delay picking up boots with a carry? Because I feel like I frequently see people do something like finish a Bassi before they get boots, or finish.
Yeah, that I would put under the category of like finishing my finishing like a quelling blade, or buying a quelling blade or that sort of thing. Like a lot of the time, this is my start on a lot of like pretty much every ranged agi carry, except for like Drow and even sometimes Drow. But in general, like if I'm playing Weaver or Luna, or Gyro or something, like I'll start with Ring of Protection instead of a Stout Shield. And then with my first couple of last hits or whatever, I'll get my my Ring of Basilius. And that'll be kind of like my... Because, I mean, as on most ranged heroes, you don't get Quelling Blade. I mean, I do on Drow, but that's neither here nor there. But so I'll finish the Ring of Basilius on Luna. And then after that, then I'll go get my boots. So that's just kind of like a placeholder. Like if you get the Basilius really early, like just get it in lane and then go for it. That's good. But if someone like gets stout quelling and then gets like a Basilius shipped out to them, I think that's just totally wrong.
Okay, yeah, then that makes sense. Although and again, this is just I think chalked up to slight differences in skill level. But yeah, I feel like I see boots delayed a lot, and like Roland,
you're not wrong.
Roland once upon a time was the worst abuser of that, though obviously he's gotten a fuckload better in that regard. But yeah, I mean,
on a bad day he still is, I will say.
Yeah,
on a bad day.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I swear I see, man, I don't even just see finishing the Bassi. Like I see people, especially Drow. I feel like with frequency, I see them finish Aki on her.
Yeah.
Sometimes Luna, I'll see them finish an Aki on her before ever grabbing boots.
Yeah.
And that seems like a crime.
Yeah, I wouldn't really disagree with you for the most part. I mean, on Luna, it's not the end of the world because you're so fast, but at the same time, just buy fucking boots. What I like to often think of is like, I think I've said this a few times, but the concept of like a transformative item, and that's an item that can change one situation that would like play out one way and then just radically transform it into something else. So like I would even just call boots a transformative kind of thing, because a kill might not be attainable. You throw boots on it, an entire fucking world of kills pops up. Like the entire... Yeah. All of your options, like all the branching paths of fate fucking open as soon as you have boots, right? And the finishing your Aquila, like what is that doing for you? Like how many paths to success does finishing an Aquila have? Like if you have Bassi, what is adding like, I don't know, the like 12 damage or whatever, which is great, like 12 damage and some attack speed. Like what does that do for you as opposed to just having fucking boots? Like boots will get you 2 more auto attacks, and that is way fucking more than 12 damage.
Yeah, well, I think you feel that on no hero more than probably Jug. Right. The moment you have a level 2 spin available and you've got a pair of boots, any kind of disable or slow, and sometimes even without a disable or slow, against most offlaners means I can get an early kill. I can accelerate my farm that much faster,
them out, or at least blow them out, if not get a kill straight up. Yeah. So so on a hero like Juggernaut, delaying your boots obviously is just the fucking worst. That you want Stout Shield so you can do your shit, then a Quelling Blade so you can last hit your shit, and then you want boots so you can kill that shit. or walk over to your offlane to your support who's getting harassed by their offlaner, or you kill some, or you're like killing the your support pulled or something, and you're killing the hard creep, and then you got to run back with your boots to your tower because you're the next creep wave is almost at your tower, that kind of thing. Like there's just so many ways that boots transforms the way you're going to play your lane that any other item really just does not. Besides, I mean, Windlace does that half as much, but
Yeah. And that makes sense too.
Can't get Windlace at a side shop, so fuck that.
Yep. Agreed. I've had many a support game where I just wish.
Dude, when you used to, oh my god, that was so good. Oh, I fucking love Windlace, man. Windlace is the best item in the fucking game.
Yep, and especially on a support. After I think it was you that I was talking with, talking about that specifically. That Boots Windlace early on a support too. I mean, well, I think we even talked about it with Flub when you and I were doing the Tuesday show. Maybe the only time that it's awesome to go Tranquils on Lion is whenever you've got that Windlace to go with it. I mean, you're zipping around the battlefield, and in the early game, it makes you the stun god at that point.
Yeah, no, the Windlace is so unreal. Like, I was, I think I was against like a Crystal Maiden or something, and she started with Windlace, and I was like, oh, this is an easy kill, and then she was just getting away from me. I was like, the fuck is this? She's supposed to be slow, and she just wasn't. Anyway, fuck that. That item is so good. I love it. All right, so this is what we got so far. You need to get the really basic items that keep you in lane, don't get you harassed out really easily, like just kind of cover a few of your weaknesses. You're level 1, last hitting's hard, you get that. As a support, your only real weakness, like you're kind of built around certain weaknesses. You don't need to last hit. You don't need to trade too much. You just need to, or you don't need to have like a great deal of damage. You don't need to be super tanky because for the most part, you're trying to not be the one taking any abuse. You're just kind of dishing out some pressure. And the best way to do that is with move speed. You want to be able to lance forward and be able to hit them, and you want to be able to walk back before they can, punish you in return or anything like that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. All right, is that okay?
Yeah, I guess so. My question here would be what we're really talking about right now are starting items and the first couple of basic items that you're going to snag in lane that you're contemplating as you're going into a build.
Yes, and as a mid, for the most part, your starting items. I mean, this is very dependent on skill level. The best thing to do objectively is to get pooled 2 tangos, spend all your money on some combination of a Wraith Band or a Null Talisman, or Poor Man's Shield, depending on if you're melee or whatever the fuck, and or Stout Coiling if you're Dragon Knight or Alchemist or something like that. And then buy a salve with your Bounty Rune Gold, and then just try to get your bottle as quickly as possible, and then boots, and then go from there. But for mid, it's pretty much the same thing, except that you're going to start with something that gives you a bunch of damage because you're in a 1v1 lane and you want to last hit and deny them. And you're going to get whatever regen you need. Hopefully you get pooled tangos. If not, buy a tango yourself. And then you probably don't need to ferry a salve over. And the first thing you're going to get is the bottle, and then you're going to continue on like normal. You're going to get the boots next and all that shit.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I got you. So what we're thinking about when we're going into making this build initially are probably items that we're going to snag in a decent game within the first maybe even 3 minutes of a game.
Sure. Okay, so after you got that kind of basic stuff, you need to judge how the lane is going a little bit. As a carry, you need to decide whether or not I'll take. I hear like Sven isn't too. Well, I mean, his shit never changes at all, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just look at him and because pretty much he follows like a very set algorithm that kind of it exemplifies kind of what everyone wants. So he gets the boots next, right? And then the next thing that he gets is Helm of the Dominator almost every time. And Helm of the Dominator accomplishes, of course, the ancient stacking for him, which Sven loves to death. But it also serves as his survivability item. It fills out his stats a little bit, like it gives him that armor, so he can basically stay in lane forever. And it gives him the sustain. So basically, the stout shield is nice for kind of mitigating the damage that you are taking and letting you be Sven for the first couple minutes. But as damage ramps up, as you're tanking more stuff, as people get their level 2 and level 3 spells, you're going to start taking more damage than a stout shield and a couple tangos can deal with, right? Eventually you're going to run out of regen. So one of the first things that you can want on a carry is just, that one item that keeps you in lane, whether it be Drow, who gets a Mask of Death early when she's out of regen, Ursa, who gets a Mask of Death, Jug, who gets the Ring of Health for his Battle Fury or his Vanguard as soon as possible, anything like that. So that's often a candidate, although with some heroes, maybe like Juggernaut specifically, if you still have a bunch of regen, you can delay this, and you can just rush out, your phase boots, or get your Basilius ferried over real quick so you can start pushing harder. You have those general options. So if you still have regen, you can forego getting this sustain item for a little bit, as long as you're not trying to jungle or anything. But for a hero like Sven, who doesn't really need too much variability in his build, he's pretty much just going to say, all right, get my boots, great, then get the sustain item so that I can start stacking Ancients, which doesn't apply to everyone, but does here. So you can start doing, this one certain thing that I want to do. But overall, in a more general sense, once I get the Helm of the Dominator, I can never be forced out of lane.
Right. Maybe this would be easier if we, I guess, maybe use somebody other than Sven. I don't say that, but because I know how much you guys love Sven. But I like with a hero where you'd vary things. Like, I mean, almost,
Okay.
Jug kind of comes to mind because there are, there are definitely builds where you grab a Battle Fury early on, as opposed to grabbing, maybe even going for that Yasha into your Manta.
Well, let's do something a little bit more objective. Let's go with PA, because if we're talking about Jug, I would want to just keep plugging my build, which is non-standard, and Jug has so many builds. But you've been playing my kind of PA pretty recently, so we'll go with that as far as our carry example. Okay, so Phantom Assassin is a hero that wants fairly similar to Jug. You want to end up with phase boots, Ring of Aquila, and a Vanguard. That's like one of the kind of staple safe lane PA builds that I really like. So where you go with that is, if you still have a bunch of regen, you're gonna just finish up your phase boots. If you're almost out of regen, it's obviously, I mean, there's no point in finishing your phase boots if you need to just run back to base, right? So you decide whether or not you want your Ring of Health for the sustain, or your phase boots first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. And
that's like a judgment call.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And I think that's a pretty good baseline that anybody at any skill level could kind of take a moment and assess in lane. If if I'm getting harassed a fuckload in lane, having phase boots, it might help me escape a little bit faster in a dire moment, but it doesn't mitigate the fact that I've blown all of my regen if it's all gone. I should take a moment, take a look down at that item inventory and say, okay, I'm out of tangos because this lane's been hard, or this lane's not, or this lane at least has been pretty heavy on the harass. Even if I'm okay right now, I'm not necessarily going to be okay in 2 minutes if the pace continues up as it has. So maybe phase boots isn't the way to go. Maybe I need to snag that Ring of Regen as early as possible so that I can start mitigating the damage that's going to be incoming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So it's and on most heroes, this in general, well, on most carries anyways, because most carries don't build tranquils. This in general comes down to, do I want to get my first sustain item, or do I want to finish my boots? Like on Sven, it would be a decision between, do I want to finish treads, or do I want to finish Helm of the Dominator? But because of ancient stacking in general, you want to just get the dom. But there are some times you're like, oh yeah, I want to get the treads so I can fight. So anyway. Luna, same deal. Do I want to finish my treads? Because man, attack speed is very nice to have on her, because their auto attack animation is honestly not great. Or do I need to get the Helm of Iron Will on my Dominator so that I can stay in lane and continue to be farming?
Right.
So that's in general the first decision you want to make. And of course, this begs the question: does that mean that every carry needs a sustain item? And
I'd say yes. I'd say they do.
Is that Roland?
Yes, it is. How are you, buddy?
How are your child?
My child is good. I popped out of the shed. I wanted to say that, big shout out to my buddy Proud and Denny. These are my two favorite people on earth, my two best friends. I love everybody. I gotta go. I just wanted to say hi. Didn't know if you were recording or not. I love you, Proud.
All right.
I love you, buddy.
Make sure if your child eats salsa, it's hot and not mild.
His name is Charles Skrunkington. I'm not going to give my last name, but yes, I did it for you, Maybe Skrunk Proud. We're not sure. Something like that.
Okay.
Skrunk.
I'm not sure
Proud.
if you actually did that or not. But
It's on the birth certificate. I don't know. He can get it changed later. But
yeah.
Hey, thank you guys for all your support and everything. I will be on Monday's show. So good luck and Godspeed. And here's Denny.
I love that boy.
I love you.
Now back to pertinent discussions.
Yeah, now back to interesting. So shit, where the fuck? Oh yeah, okay. Does every carry need a sustain item? And if Roland says yes, it must be true.
Yeah, it must be true.
But for the most part, I kind of think they do. I'm trying to think of any carry that I wouldn't say does. And I mean, even like seeing people like professional players build Mask of Death on Drow just so.
What about?
Am I saying that right? I always
Morbid Mask. Morbid Mask.
Morbid Mask. Jesus Christ! Yeah, I think it was Mask of Death in Dota 1.
So, all right, I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna try to throw some examples of heroes at you that you might not build the regen on.
Okay.
How about Wraith King? Who?
Oh, he's got it built in at the very least, I would say. So, I mean, obviously, you're gonna change the build up a little bit if heroes have certain things built in, like Life Stealer, your Sven, you maybe don't need a survivability item like you do with like PA needs a survivability item to stand and do her stuff, but Sven has his built in just because he's a fucking strength hero, right?
Right.
That sort of thing.
So what qualifies as a survivability item? Like what are my options if I'm looking at a survivability option?
Well, let's not cover survivability quite yet. We're gonna hover on the sustain still. So I'll rephrase and not say you need to build a sustain item so much as at this point in your progression you need to have sustain on your hero. So like Dragon Knight already has at least health sustain built in. Wraith King has at least health sustain built in. Lifestealer has health sustain built in. So for the most part, they don't need any sustain items. But a hero like Phantom Assassin, or and also Slark has sustain built in, so he doesn't need a health sustain item. But a hero like Drow Ranger, like Luna, like Phantom Assassin, they all need some sort of a health regen item. Anti-mage.
Speaking of Jug, would Jug fall into that category with the healing ward? I mean, that's a little close. He does have the healing ward but the healing ward really taxes his mana, and it's on a long cooldown, and it's a really it's a good ability in general. Like let's see. For a fight.
Let's look at Weaver. Weaver has an ability to get his health back through time lapse, but it's such an important skill. It's not like you can just spam it. So Weaver still does need, some kind of health sustain item. So there's a little bit of a decision between whether or not you think certain aspects of the hero do cover all the sustain issues that they have. Clinks is another example of this. Yes, he has Death Pact, and that does heal him, but does it cover enough? That sort of thing. So that is a bit of a judgment call. But I think for the most part, if you have something that is, like continuously in effect and always kind of healing you up, that's a decent way to think about it. Like Slark, there's never a point where you're not going to have, your Shadow Dance available. You can just get out of sight and it's happening. If you ever want to heal, you can. But with Jug, if you ever want to heal, it's going to be hard to get that 140 mana back, and it might be on cooldown because you just used it.
Yeah, right. Makes sense. Okay.
All right. So you need some sort of sustain item, and then after that, you want an item to kind of like round you out and give you general efficacy on what you're trying to do. And that is rather general, but that's typically comes down to finishing your boot item. Unless you're a hero that doesn't want to finish their boot item, then it comes down to whatever small item you wanna get to just kind of fill out your stats. And by fill out your stats, I just mean something to like a little power boost so that you can fight at in the early game. You're not completely worthless. So like a Ring of Aquila, it gives you that little bit of mana that you might need, that little bit of health you might need, some extra damage you might need. Gives you an aura so that you can be pushing. Or the armor aura rather, so that you can be pushing a little bit of mana regen, that sort of thing. So like a hero like Luna, who doesn't need a huge amount of mana regen, could use some health, but at this point you're doing a lot of farming, but just enough to keep your head above water. I feel like almost every hero in the game besides Sven, honestly, like needs an item at that point. I mean, Sven kind of does, it's his treads. But yeah, so in general, we got the whatever items that you need for the first like little bit laning stage. You want to get your boots, then you want to get some kind of sustain if you're out of regen, then something to fill you out. And then after that item, even if you did have regen before, you want to get your sustain item. So you can swap around between thing that fills your hero out or the sustain item. You can those can swap spots around, but you want to have those two, one after another.
Right. We should just let you do a lecture show. Like, fuck
That's
Roland.
what I was kind of, yeah.
Well, what does he add to this? Really, I'm enjoying it. I feel like
Keeps me on track.
Oh, okay.
Me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm.
You got a little ADD in you.
I'm a guy. Yeah. Well, you know what? Yep.
All right. So when you talk about that next item, you're talking about something that's kind of low value. And I don't mean low value for what it's capable of doing,
low
but you mean
value,
low cost, let's say.
Like kind of like Drum and fucking or Aquila and even Echo Saber to a point.
Right.
Wand, that kind of shit.
And I guess I found it interesting that what you're kind of equating that to is an item that you're kind of equating that to an item that's going to help you. You said initially that help you do your thing, but it seems like a lot of those items are more like farm oriented, even still, like like Echo Saber. I mean, Echo Saber. Don't get me wrong. I get all the other implications of Echo Saber, but it also does help you farm a little more efficiently.
Sure, yeah. No, as a carry, at least, no item that you buy is going to be in general, anyways. At least early on, is going to be an item that isn't helping you acquire more gold, right? Like, pretty much at all. I can't really think of a single one. Even Vanguard on Jug, which helps me fight, also make sure that I can sustain forever in the jungle, and I'm 100% always at full health, ready for a fucking fight to start.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's an interesting. And even I guess if you're picking up like a Shadow Blade on Slark as your next item. Or is that too soon? Or I mean, am I thinking like too far ahead?
Yeah, that's all good. I mean, you get like Slark skips the regen items, so Slark once the item developed his stats, he gets the Scotty, and then after that he after you get the filling out your stats thing, you're gonna get your first item that's like particular to your role. So Sun is actually a bit of a tricky character on this, but if you're talking about a Juggernaut, that item would be like the Yasha or something like that. Something that gets you mood speed, so you can start fighting. Or on a Phantom Assassin, that'd be your Deso, so you start doing a shit ton of damage and you kill people quickly. On a Slark, that's your Shadow Blade, so you can start doing pickoffs and that kind of thing. It's your first kind of general item that doesn't really specifically fit a certain slot in kind of set algorithm, but it is going to be like the first item that makes your hero do like what you know your hero to do. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to ask you this. That might be a tangentializing question, so I apologize in advance. But when you are thinking about creating a new build on a hero, or you're thinking about going a different direction on a hero, where in this chain of events where we're at so far in contemplating the item progression that we need, where do you start contemplating a different item?
Okay. Yeah, so this is that's a great question. So let's take okay, we're gonna go with Juggernaut, of course, because he's the most basic hero in the fucking game. And we're going to talk about, we can either talk about my build with the Echo Saber Deso that I was experimenting with, which isn't a good build still, but it was something where I was trying to go through this checklist to try to make, or we can just talk about people who are swapping in like Maelstrom in the Juggernaut build. Which one do you think is best?
I'd be interested to hear you talk about the Echo Saber, because I think that'll probably more answer my question, because if we're talking about like creating a new build or trying to do something new in a hero.
So I'll run through the little thought process real quick on making this. All right, so you start, whatever starting items, Tango Salve, fucking Mango, Stout Shield, whatever. And then you're going to get your Coiling Blade, which is still super standard Juggernaut stuff. Then you get your boots. And from there, you'll get Phase Boots. I'm trying to remember like exactly what I did there. So one of the things with this build is, how we said earlier, you kind of make a judgment call on whether or not Healing Ward is going to be enough for you. And in this build, I wanted to say, let's just try to make it enough. And part of that is we need a lot of mana regen, so we're going to get a raindrop as fast as we can. And this is an Echo Saber build, so we're going to get the regen from the Echo Saber kind of as quickly as we can. But we need to fill out our stats in general, like with the Aquila. Part of the benefit of the Aquila is that it does give you like some mana and some health and that sort of thing. But if we wanted to swap an Echo Saber in there, because the Echo Saber is going to give us our health, and it's also going to take care of our mana. So we're going to try to cut out the Aquila, because going in a build like Aquila then Echo Saber, that's a lot of rather small items that don't really get us very, very far. Like, so you want a sustain item typically isn't going to be that expensive. For a hero like Juggernaut, often your sustain item would be your Battle Fury. But that's also then your farming item and your first damage item. And it covers all of those things, right? So if you have an item like an Echo Saber and the only real role it's filling is like some extra health and mana regen, yes, it also does apply this like damage thing for you and all that, but it doesn't really do anything on its own. So if you're spending this much on the Echo Saber, you can't also be spending that much on an Aquila, and they both are going to take up 2 slots, all that shit. So you can't have too many items that are filling out your stats. An Echo Saber is just going to do our stats completely, but to kind of make up for the fact that we're going to get no agi with that, and we would just want to be like a little bit thicker before this, before 2,600 gold comes in, we can just pick up like a wand. So at this point we have like Phase Boots, wand, and then Echo Saber, and that's kind of like our baseline. Like we're pretty good to go at this point. And we have a range drop 2, and then like a TP and a Quelling Blade, and that's a decent starting point for a hero. I mean, we can drop either the Raindrop or the Quelling Blade for a Windlace, whatever you want. And then from there, you're going to get your first big damage item, and that's going to be the Desolator.
Right. So I'm looking at a game that you played on Jug where you did this build similarly.
Okay.
And it looks like...
Did I get it wrong?
It looks like you went Deso before Echo. Desolator before Echo Saber.
That was one of my attempts, yes.
So what was the thinking behind that?
Deso is really strong early, and these items just do take a while to get up. Like Echo Saber was taking a while, and I was kind of falling off a bit early. So I wanted to see if I could kind of substitute everything that I got from Echo Saber just by playing as efficiently as possible and minimizing my need for additional mana and that sort of thing. But it didn't really work out.
Right. Okay.
Did I get a wand before Deso?
I'm trying to pull up that specific game actually so that I can see.
Sure.
I looked at it in Dota Buff, which I love Dota Buff by comparison to Open Dota. I'll say that
do you pay for Plus?
I do pay for Plus. But unfortunately, I'm on Roland's account, and he does not pay for Plus.
Cheap boy.
But not being able to see the order that you bought items in is definitely an advantage that you have over at Open Dota. But I'm trying to put in the match ID, and I'll take a look. But you can carry on. I'll look this up while you're doing that.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. So basically, like, if I was to look at the item progression here, I'd say I got my boots, I got the stout, the quelling, all that shit, so I could survive in lane, get the last hits. Got the boots up, and then the wand is kind of a funny item because it kind of takes care of some amount of health sustained and some amount of mana sustained. But of course, you're only really going to be getting wand charges when stuff is happening around you, and normally when stuff is happening around you, you're like, when people are casting spells, most likely you're going to also be casting spells and losing health and all that shit. So wand is almost never going to like get you back to full health from an engagement where you were getting wand charges. It'll just kind of like catch you up a little bit. But if you combine that with Healing Ward, you may end up just like being at par. Like Healing Ward takes care of some of your health regen. Wand takes care of some of your health regen and mana regen. So combined, they'll probably keep you up to speed. And Echo Saber has a Oblivion Staff in it, which is an absurd mana regen item. It's like 75% mana regen. Plus, it's also giving you 10 int total. So it's pretty good on keeping you solid there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
Here, I got your purchases here.
Here we go.
So you started Stout, Tango, Salve, Mango. You picked up a TP pretty quickly as well, like 10 seconds into the game. Quelling Blade, you got your brown boots. You went into Phase. You went to Vanguard. Then you went Magic Wand. Then you grabbed an Infused Raindrop. And then you snagged your first Mithril Hammer at about 14 minutes. Then you snagged...
Did I go Echo Saber this game?
Yes, you did. Then you snagged Blightstone
at
1631. Then you finished your Deso at 1929. And then you snagged your Oblivion Staff at 2032, and by 2033 had your 2333 had your Echo.
Yeah, so I think this is one of my earlier attempts. I think I also played some of these on. But yeah, so and that I discovered going for the Vanguard took care of. So the Vanguard is a sustain item. And it is also like a survivability item, and it kind of like rounds out Jug's tankiness in that he can, wade into the middle of fights and be, super strong. Echo Saber also kind of does that for you. Like the 250 health Vanguard gives you, Echo Saber gives you 200 health. So they're a little bit comparable. You don't get the damage block, of course, but you get other things out of the Echo Saber. So I'm sure from that I concluded having to go for the Vanguard. And I couldn't go Vanguard, then Echo Saber, because they both kind of fill a similar role. So I went Vanguard. And then Deso, I would have like my sustain item, and then it fills me out. And then I get the Deso. And like, that's okay. It's just that's not the idea, right? The idea is Echo Saber, Deso. And one of the reasons why Deso is just kind of weak is it's kind of taking the slot of your Diffusal. And Diffusal is obviously really good on Jug because it gives them a way to hold on to people, to stop them in their tracks, get Omni Slashes on them, keep them out of position, not let them retreat to their team, all that sort of thing. And then the issue with Deso is you get Deso and you walk up and you hit them and then they walk away. But the Echo Saber gives you a little bit of grip. Like, you can always get the double hit in and then normally a third because they're slowed down a little bit. So the idea is to echo Deso, not Vanguard Deso, right?
Right.
So then I was like, all right, so I can't get then a Echo Saber third item, because then I'm left with like Boots, TP, Vanguard, Deso, Echo Saber, and like I'm already fucking like almost out of slots.
Yeah,
and I probably want to blink with this too, because I'm trying to like blink Echo Deso.
Yep, you did also go blink.
Yeah, and that so I've then basically like I'm out of items. I can get Abyssal, and then I'm just stuck with like a fucking Echo Saber and an early game Vanguard, and it's just that's no good. So that's why I kind of changed that build up, because I had two items that were taking care of my survivability and filling my slots out kind of thing. So
are you not going Vanguard anymore on Jug when you do the Echo Deso build?
Yeah, if I were to continue doing this build, I would definitely so I touched on Healing Ward kind of takes care of some of your health regen, but not entirely, because it costs a lot of mana. So you get the Echo Saber for the mana regen to take care of the fact that Healing Ward costs a lot of mana, and then you get the Magic Wand to take care of a little bit of your health regen when you don't want to use the Healing Ward. So I would go Phase Boot and Quelling, keep those around, and then like Magic Wand, and then Echo Saber, and then Deso or something like that. I mean, I would get the Blightstone first, or perhaps something like the Oblivion Staff, and then Deso, and then finish out the Echo Saber, kind of depending on whether or not I need the survivability or I really want the damage immediately.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I hope for folks listening along, like they get, because I think I follow your train of thought, as far as why we're grabbing certain items in certain orders, and it's, I'm glad that we did this particular build too, just because I think that highlights very specifically like what sort of things you have to be thinking about and in what order. Because I guess basically once you have, so now with this Echo Deso build going forward, once you have Deso, it's all about endgame items from there, right?
Sure, yeah, finishing out an Abyssal, getting your blink so that you can instantly deliver your stuff, and that's a little bit more specific, but that's like my survivability is good enough. My damage is very high, and the biggest thing holding me back right now is delivering my damage. Right? That's similar to Sven. Sven has all the damage in the world. But his big problem is just keep fucking holding someone down and forcing it down.
Right.
So you want to get the blink to force that to happen. I want to get the blink so I can blink on the support. I'm going to cough, please. Okay, so you want to get the blink so that you can like blink on a fucking Crystal Maiden or something, take her armor out, and then just hit her twice, and she gets 2-shot because one of your hits crits.
Right.
Yeah. But so I want to kind of draw like parallels here. So if you look at like my traditional Jug build, I get the Phase Boots, same thing. You want to get Phase Boots so you can get up on someone. And then I'll get the Vanguard. Or I'll get, okay, so the general item build that I do there is I get the Ring of Health, and then the Basilius, and then I finish the Vanguard, and then I finish the Aquila. And so what that's doing is giving me the health regen, and then the mana regen and ability to push a tower with the Basilius. and then the full survivability of the Vanguard, so I can like be fighting immediately, and then finishing the Aquila just to keep my stats filled up, give me a slightly bigger mana pool and all that. And what I do with the jug here is I get the phase boots, similar, same as the phase boots before, and then instead of the health regen of the Ring of Health, I'll get the magic wand and maybe a clarity or an infused raindrop as soon as possible, so I'll have enough mana to use the healing ward to take care of my health issues. So it's kind of like transmuting needing health into just needing mana. So sustain with a hero like Juggernaut can kind of go either way. And then instead of the Basilius the Basilius to help me push, I have more mana, so I can use healing ward more. So hopefully that'll even it out a little bit, because healing ward also will healing my creeps similar to them having more armor. But I mean, obviously this is a difference between the two builds. So this is a loss that I'm aware of. And then after that, I'd look at the other things the Aquila gives me, like damage and that sort of thing, and the mana regen. And that's when I start getting my my Echo Saber, and then the health that the Vanguard gives me. The Echo Saber also provides that. And then next in that build would be like a Yasha or something to help me do damage or deliver it. And the slow that Echo Saber provides is a little bit to help me deliver the damage. And then you have the Desolator, the Diffusal Blade, which is kind of the big damage item for my Juggernaut build. And then we swap that out with the way more damage Desolator. So like
Right.
we're losing out and kind of the like mobility and helping you do all your shit with like a Yasha does in general for Juggernaut. And then instead gaining on the front of like having the Desolator to, apply Desolation, debuff, and make your Omni Slash fucking insane, which is another topic.
Okay, so here's my next question. Why try to change a build? Why try?
Fucking bored. Fucking bored with this goddamn patch, man.
Okay, I mean, is that the truthful answer? I mean, or
a little bit. I mean, I don't know. There's this thing in Dota where like as that are figured out, their builds still change. Like Juggernaut's going Maelstrom now. Nothing changed about Juggernaut. Nothing changed about Maelstrom. It's good now though. So there's always something that maybe someone like looked over or something like that. Like when Echo Saber was out, Svens were still going S and Y for a while. It was like a decision, but now it's just like every fucking game S and Y, S and Y. The Lifestealer build of Armlet, Echo Saber, Deso, it wasn't like that before. It was like Armlet Sanjin Yasha, or like Armlet Sanjin Yasha Echo Saber, Armlet Echo Saber, like fucking AC or whatever. Like people didn't fucking know, but they eventually figured it out. So it's just the blind hope that like maybe we missed something that's cool. And I love Deso.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I do too. After ripping off your PA build, it's stupid item. Good. And when you can free farm and get access to one super early, you feel that effect super early on. So I mean, but do you think that at this point in the patch, this late in the patch, because we talked about Flub and we made a little bit of fun of him. I think Ursi and Roland gave him a fair amount of shit last week. About wanting to delve into or experiment with builds. I mean, is there a build that we haven't uncovered yet? You know what I mean? This late
absolutely.
Into a patch?
Almost every Sven I see right now is going, or maybe not every, but there's a shit ton of Svens right now that instead of Daedalus are going Bloodthorn. And that's awesome. And I see it all the time now. And that's a thing that we could have been doing for a year now, honestly. And we just started doing it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, is that... Is it just blind? So I know that you laid out some basic rules for us to like think about before we go into design a new build. With sustainability, with getting that early damage item and getting a delivery method to deliver that damage. Is so much of build designing just straight up experimentation?
A lot of it is experimentation, but kind of a lot of it is like you need to. Okay, so here's what's so interesting about Dota builds is that there are so few items that do any specific thing. Like there's no item that gives you both armor and health almost in the game. Like AC is the armor item, Heart is the health item. The only thing that's like close is like Scotty, but that doesn't give you efficient health and armor, really. It doesn't like give you those in spades. It also spends a lot of its budget on giving you mana, and that's slow. Like, there's no way for, oh man, I need to take care of my survivability against physical damage, and then you end up with like Shivas and you still have no health, that kind of thing.
Right. I can't go, I need mana regen and I need this, and I need armor.
Yeah, like mana regen and attack speed. Like, where's that item?
Yeah, right.
There isn't. Or if you like want attack speed and I don't know, like I want Mjolnir effect and plus damage. Like, no, you can only get Mjolnir effect and all that shit. I want cleave in the late game. But no, all you have is battle fury. You have no other options. And so that's what's really cool about Dota builds, because that means if you want to work in one other item, you can't just swap it out for another. You need to change almost everything or accept that your hero is going to behave differently. So like if I want to change Diffusal for Deso, which is originally my idea, but I was like, there's no late game Deso. There's only early game Deso, or mid game Deso, and there's no Deso that also gives me some like grip on my opponents like Diffusal does. So I need to change up other things. It's just like there's no late game Echo Saber I can get. There's only early game Echo Saber. So like anytime you want to incorporate a new item, anytime you want your hero to act differently, you kind of need to rebuild it from the ground up. And then from there, you need to say, okay, so I need my survivability. I need to, be able to do shit in lane. I need, I need my delivery mechanism for my stuff, unless I already have like a blink built in or something, like all that shit.
Do you think that it changes? I'm going to fumble with trying to ask this question, and hopefully you can kind of make sense.
It's just how it is.
I got a low dex. All right. So when you do discover, or when you do decide you want to work certain items in, do you also kind of have to be willing to maybe just completely rethink how you're going to play the hero, or how you're going to go, or how you're going to behave while playing that hero? Because like that PA build, your PA build allows, or at least it allows me to be super aggressive. Basically it allows me to be super aggressive once Deso comes up, right?
Yeah. And you get Vanguard first, right? Like,
yes. Okay. 100%.
That's my safe lane PA build. Yeah.
I hardcore just 100% ripped it off.
Okay.
But
that's what I want. So that's pbuilds.tumblr.com.
Hey, I plugged that on the Wednesday show or something, I think.
God bless.
So yeah, it allows me to be really aggressive on her. But if I were to go through and, I'm going to start, Proud has inspired me listening to him on Proudland on Friday. I want to try some sort of an Echo Saber build on PA to see if I can get that insta crit right there. And I start kind of experimenting with that.
Right.
Is there a possibility? Well, and I think the answer is yes. But I mean, how severe is it that I am going to need to completely reevaluate the way that I play PA, or when I get aggressive, or maybe even how I skill PA?
Yeah, no, totally. I will, of course, say Echo Saber shit on PA because you're going to blink in with Blink Strike, and that's going to give you plus 130 attack speed or whatever, and so the double hit doesn't really help you at all.
Sure.
But that's kind of like a side note. But yeah, so like on my PA, you get Vanguard early, right? Like a lot of PAs, like if you copy what QO does and don't understand what he does at all, and you just take it at face value and go, oh, a lot of times he gets Vladimir's. You're just gonna say, oh, I'll just get Vlad's all the time. I'll just get it every game, and you're gonna max dodge because you need all the evasion. Because you don't have any survivability or any plus health like the Vanguard gives you. But if you're going Vanguard, instead of like, okay, so I have more survivability here. What does that allow me? What are the fucking like allowances of Vanguard? And that is, you can start going more points in your Blink Strike and less points in evasion because you're not really worried about physical attacks because you have a fucking Vanguard and more health. So yeah, and so from there you can say, okay, I can play way more aggressive because I have a much shorter cooldown on my ability to go in and then go out. I'm not as committed when I like Blink Strike in now. And like on my Juggernaut build for the Echo Saber, since I don't have the Vanguard to be healing me up, and I'm pretty much entirely reliant on my healing ward besides like my wand for my health regen. I'm gonna scale like a lot of points in stats and healing ward. Probably have healing ward almost maxed at 10 or something like that, maybe 3 points at least. Because the mana cost is going to be 140 at all levels, but the healing is only going to go up. So I might as well just, get points in that.
Right. So the next question I'm going to ask is, I kind of touched on it before the show with you, but it's one of the things I was frantically trying to decide what the hell to talk about on this show, and thankfully you were already prepped. But is when
relatively, let's not.
Sure. So when I'm even when I'm following, kind of a standard build or a more traditional build, or experimenting with my new build, when do I, and what kind of items do I consider when things aren't going as planned? You know what I mean? Like, when do you pick up? Because I'll be honest, I never, and I know this is a weakness of my play, like, I don't ever pick up that bracer that I see the pros pick up whenever something's not going their way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think this is more of a support area, which I do want to cover. I'm not sure how much time are we in?
We're at 55 minutes.
Okay, all right. So probably no time for support. But that's more of a support thing. So if we beeline a little bit, because all right. So one of the ideas as a carry is you're gonna need to carry the game, and if you're behind, that means that either you're gonna need to get a sick opening and you're just gonna kill buildings super fucking quick, which a bracer will not help you do, or you're eventually just going to turtle and get one good team fight, and then kill them and then get ahead. And the only way, so to get one good team fight, basically what that means is we're going to catch them in a bad position with a good amount of whatever, and then we're going to do a lot of damage. If you're the carry, chances are a lot of the damage on your team is going to come from you. This is like a really good rule of thumb as a carry is when behind, build damage, when ahead, build survivability. Because in Dota, a stun is always going to be a stun. So if I can stun your fucking Sven out and do a shit ton of damage to him while he's like out of position and caught unawares, that's going to be great. If I just have like 4 bracers and I catch your Sven out, I can't do shit. I can just be like, hello, I am slightly tankier. And then he'll be like, all right. And then the stun ends and he kills me. So if you're behind on a carry, normally that's actually like not super the play. Getting like a wand or a raindrop or something is good, but if you just spend like 600 gold on a bracer, probably would have been better to just like take that 600 gold, sit in your base, try to get what little farm you can, and like slowly build up to that next item and just like look for the easy kill.
Okay.
But as a support, you want to be. You don't really need to do the damage. You just need to be able to like wade through whatever AoE damage is like happening, and you need to be survivable enough. Okay, so when I have the support options here, or support item build, basically you have your boot option, whatever like mobile, if whatever you need to do your primary function, which is either like roaming around the map or sitting behind someone and spam healing them. So like if you're like a dazzle and oracle, you need whatever mana regen item. That's normally your boot kind of deal. And if you're, roaming, you need your tranquils and a windlace and like a wand to keep you sustained. Or, if you're roaming around, you need like an orb of venom so that you can keep roaming on people. And the next thing you need is just how not to die. So that just means, whatever makes it so you're not killed by like, a meteor passes by you and like you had to, step in it for a second, or you got caught by like a liquid fire or a dual breath.
That's where you're going to pick up your like glimmer capes and your
maybe a wand and a raindrop, and that kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, you're thinking more low cost item.
Yeah, just enough so that you can be around to use the glimmer cape, or that you can be around to cast your spell and save someone. Glimmer cape definitely falls into that category, but it's like you need your boot option and then like a little bit so that you don't just get taken out just by existing. Like the ambient damage that goes on in a map or that goes in during a team fight, you need enough so that doesn't kill you. So that like, a lone druid bear's radiance burn doesn't be like, whoop, I took 2 seconds of radiance, I have to leave. That's where like the casual bracer Urn. I love Urn for this because Urn is like the survivability for bracer, plus it actually fucking does something.
Right.
So that's where that kind of comes in. And then after that on the support, once you're, helps you deliver efficacy, whether that be a blink dagger or 4 staff, or if you're already always in position, a glimmer cape or something like that. Okay,
yeah, that makes total sense.
But yeah, on a carry for the most part, casual bracer has mostly been out by the casual range, especially because the range drop is kind of made to go away. And if you spend like fucking 500 whatever fucking gold on a bracer and then you just have to like sell it, it just feels super shitty. And that's a lot of gold, honestly. Like and it's not really going to build into anything unless it's like a drum. But if you're getting like a mid-late game drum, like that becomes a 2k gold investment, and you're trying to catch up, and the drum is not going to catch you up. It's going to delay your loss.
Yeah, and that may 100% that makes sense. I'm 100% on board. I'm with you. I feel completely cleared up on that question.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I enjoy that. So now, can I ask you some some tangentialized questions while Roland's not here, so that I can?
You know what? I wanna cover the offlane a little bit first.
Oh yeah.
The offlane,
okay.
Yeah, the offlane acts so the carry mid acts almost exactly like the carry does as far as that itemization. Outside of you often don't need that sustain item because you have the bottle to take care of it for the most part. There are some heroes that, maybe just don't want a bottle like Invoker, but his sustain just comes from, Quas. So obviously if you have a hero that takes care of something like Ursa in particular, you don't need that like damage. Okay, so I'll just read out so carry in the early efficacy, which is the, like fucking Aquila and Stout and all that shit. And then boots in the early efficacy, which whatever, Aquila or wand or whatever thing you need. Then you have that sustain item, but if you don't need a sustain item like a Slark or a Wraith King, you just skip that. And then in general, you need a farming speed item if you're like a farming carry, whether that be like your Battle Fury, Mask of fucking Madness or whatever, stacking. If you're a hero like Luna or Sven, you already have that built into you, so you go through that. Most carry heroes already have the farming speed item, but just built into them if they're going to be farming heroes. But then there were heroes like Anti-Mage and I guess Ember Spirit kind of, I would say, and like Juggernaut, who can go for the Battle Fury or the Maelstrom or Spectre with like the Radiance, or Lone Druid with the Midas.
Wait, are they going are they going Maelstrom with Battle Fury on Jug?
No, they're going Maelstrom. They're going like Maelstrom instead of Battle Fury. So they go
okay.
Phase, Aquila, Yasha, Maelstrom. I see a lot, or Manta Maelstrom. And then you'll get whatever fighting item you have, which will often be a survivability item or just like a BKB. And then whatever you need to fight, and then some kind of damage item after you have the survivability. And then it's just going to be a balancing act between whether you want more survivability or more fighting. And often you want after your first survivability or damage item, you'll probably want a delivery item, whether that be like a blink dagger or just something to give you extra move speed if you haven't gotten like a Yasha yet, or I would consider like an Abyssal Blade similar into a delivery item, in that it just holds whoever you're trying to kill down and lets you just fucking treat them like a PvE target and get your shit together. So it's just like early efficacy, sustain, farming speed, survivability or damage item, whatever you need, those kind of like whatever your fighting item is. And then something to like lock them down so you can deliver all your shit,
right?
Or just get to them. And then for like a fighting carry, it's a lot less like you just need whatever early efficacy thing you need. Hopefully you'll have a team around you that can take care of your sustain, whether you have like a healer or a bunch of people with mana boots and shit, and then you just get like whatever fighting items you need, and that's kind of more play by ear. But if you take like Ursa's a fighting carry because Ursa, you get the lifesteal for the sustain. That's about all you need. And then you don't really go a farming speed item on Ursa. There's just not really one for him. You don't need a damage item because your hero already does a shit ton of damage in base, and you don't really need a survivability item because your hero already has a lot of survivability built into him with just how fucking strong he is, how everyone just wants to run away instead of fight him.
Which is why you go blink, because you just need that delivery method.
Yeah, so you're able to sustain item, you get very quickly. Farming speed item, there's just none for him, so you basically skip it. Fighting item, you already fight, so you skip it. Damage item, you skip. Survivability item, you skip, and you go straight to the mobility item.
Would you count like Iron Talon as being a farming efficiency item for him?
Yeah, I would throw that kind of on the category of wand, where it like kind of takes care of your sustains, but not entirely. So like if you're a half a farmer, like Slark has generally good farming with Dark Pact, but it doesn't really cover all his need. But if you get Iron Talon on him, if you Iron Talon plus Dark Pact, like if you Iron Talon the big creep, and then your Dark Pact will basically kill the whole camp on its own. So like if you have like a half good farming hero and then throw an Iron Talon on it, then it becomes like a full farming hero. If you have a half sustainability hero like Juggernaut and then throw a wand on it, it becomes like a full sustain hero.
Right. Okay. So mid and offlane.
Okay, so mid, same thing as carry for the most part. Your bottle, unless you're not a bottle hero. I mean, mid is very like there are a lot of mid heroes that do very different things, like what an alchemist is going to go, what an invoker is going to go, what an arc warden is going to go, are all going to be very different. Especially from like what a Magnus is going to go, or when Miracle plays Rubik mid, what he's going to go. So I would kind of look at your mid hero and say, is this kind of like a spellcasting utility-ish hero? Is this hero more like going to carry? And then just kind of take it that way, but then decide if you want to add a bottle or not. So there's not too much to go into there, honestly, but you definitely, in almost all situations, you're going to not get a sustain item very early on, if at all, and you're going to get you're going to want to get a fighting item very early. So instead of so you're still going to want the early efficacy, like whether that be, and that'll, like oftentimes that'll come out of like the Wraithband that you started with, or the Null Talisman that you started with. Or if you need more, like invokers who go Wraithband and then, or who go, like Wraithband into Aquila, or Null Talisman into Basilius, or something like that. And then you're going to want whatever, so you get your sustain item in the bottle, you get your boots and all that shit, you get your root thing done. And then either like the farming speed item first or the fighting item first. So, like a Puck who gets Veil of Discord be the fighting item, or an invoker who gets the Midas, if invoker's more of a farming hero, than like a Puck or that sort of thing. And yeah, you just kind of take it from there.
Cool. Yeah. I don't play enough mid to probably have terribly pertinent questions in that regard when I'm playing.
It's also mid hero specific, honestly. Like I can't really say too much there, but yeah, like a Storm Spirit is going to want a Bloodstone because of the way the hero works, honestly. It's kind of a fighting item. It's kind of a survivability item, kind of a sustain item. It kind of covers everything. But like a Queen of Pain maybe will want Orchid first, because she doesn't need the sustain item, because she just has like the bottle takes care of almost everything. And then the Orchid takes care of her mana regen, so she really doesn't need sustain in that regard, just the health, which bottle can take care of. And then that's like her farming item, and it gives her enough mana that it also kind of counts as her farming speed item, because it lets her spam her E.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, and then for off lane, you want to get whatever lets you be getting shit out of the lane. That's your efficacy item. I would honestly call that, because off laner is often also a jungle item, or a jungler. And then if I think of like what's the basic thing that you need to have efficacy in a jungle, like that's the Iron Talon, right? Whatever lets you jungle. So if you're going to end up jungling, your early efficacy item is going to be an Iron Talon. If you're going to contest the lane, it might be like a Stout Shield, or on Bat Rider, just like a Windlace and some regen. You get whatever you can to make sure you're either getting something out of the lane or the jungle. You just get whatever items that ensure you're going to be getting something out of wherever the fuck you decide to go. Then you want pretty much like right off the bat, you're going to go with whatever like sustain you have so you can stay on the map. And then from there, it's just going to be whatever, I guess team presence item is what I want to say it is for the most part. Like a Faceless Void with the Vlads, a Dark Seer with the mech, a Tide with the mech, a Sand King almost with the blink, because like Sand King already has a lot of team presence in his spells. But then so you kind of skip that and I guess go straight to the mobility. Yeah, okay. So it's like sustain item, team presence item, into mobility, into miscellaneous. But so if you already have team presence, like Dark Seer with the moving around, or not Dark Seer, Sand King with like all of his crazy damage and stuns and moving around, and then Slardar with like his stun and that sort of thing. Like he doesn't really have a team presence item; he just goes straight to the mobility. And then if you're like a tanky or if you're like more of a carry hero, then of course like a lone druid, I would kind of go over into the carry farming category of items rather than look at like the utility miscellaneous offlaner category of items.
So I mean, yeah. So you basically what you're saying is you only want to build utility to a point on an offlaner.
If you're, I'm saying if you have some offlaners that aren't like not every offlaner is a Dark Seer, right? Like Lone Druid is definitely not. Faceless Void kind of is depending on how you want to build them, but like let's say, oh man, we need Faceless Void to like carry this game, it's gonna follow like a very different algorithm. So if you're playing a sort of like team presence like hero to kind of like fill out your team like a Darkseer or a Tide Hunter. That's what you'd want to do. But if you are acknowledging that you're building in a more carry-ish direction, then you just go through the carry algorithm of what items you want to build. Like if your Faceless Void, it doesn't really like need to go, or Faceless Void like gets Vlad's, but he knows he's going to be right clicking more, then like he'll start to get so he'll have like the sustain item and the early efficacy out of the carry position, and then from there maybe he'll go for farming speed items. Maybe he'll get the Yasha so that he can like move through stuff faster, and that's also kind of like his fighting item.
So you're saying I shouldn't just run another carry in the offlane and try to farm him?
Well, you can.
No?
Honestly, that's a good strat. That goes into like team comp in general.
Yeah,
But if you are an offlaner and you are acknowledging that you're doing a lot more farming than like say a Darkseer or whatever, like you're being used for your right click, you're being expected to carry, then you would kind of switch up from doing this like utility team sustain and then team presence item and then like mobility, like maybe you'd shy away from that and go more towards the carry farming algorithm where you get the sustain and then the farming speed and then the fighting and then the damage or survivability.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So not all offlaners are Darkseers
created equal.
Yeah, and similarly, not everyone in the safe lane is going to be a Sven or a Juggernaut.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, not every carry is going to be a farming carry necessarily.
Yeah, So I mean, probably your offlaners played it like a fighting carry than a farming carry, but I mean, hey, Lone Druid exists, so what am I saying?
Yeah. All right, so can I ask you a couple of Roland specific questions while he's gone?
Okay. Oh wait, I think I went over support, but it's just like you get your ability, and then and then just fucking Glimmer Cape. Honestly, I'll get Mac.
Boots, mobility, Glimmer Cape. Check.
Boots, how not to die. Mobility, Glimmer Cape, and then there's specific things like you want like so boot option how not to die. I would also put that in line with like small support items like urn. I feel like every team honestly could use an urn. Maybe that may not be true at a higher level, but just word of advice for everyone here, like if your team doesn't have an urn and you're playing support, buy an urn. Gives you a lot of health, helps you not die, helps you sustain pushes and shit. Urn is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's cheap. It's way cheap.
It's cheap as shit.
You're gonna get that way before you finish that mech.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it'll probably heal more over the total course of the game, depending on how things go.
And add a little extra damage in a fight whenever you're feeling like you can't do that much.
Like a 150 pure damage dot, like that's pretty strong. But yeah, so it's like the boot option, how not to die, and whatever small items you need, and then in general mobility. I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for like, well, there's some heroes where you want Aether Lens. Like, okay, I get it. I can like slightly put that into the category of mobility, but the honest fact is there's a lot of different shit to do on supports, and there's going to be a lot of situations where you're going to want different fucking things than what I'm telling you right now.
And we're also attempting to give more like general rules of thumb for people to start contemplating what they're doing in a build. And I'll be honest, like a lot of this is going to be super helpful the next time I get into a game and I'm playing a carry and I'm trying to think about, what kind of an item I need to do. I hope that I'm not, I suspect that I'm not alone in, hitting the timing on a couple of items that I know I'm going to get on a carry, and then wondering what am I going to do next, or hitting or not hitting a timing on a particular item and wondering what the fuck I'm going to go next. And especially I also hope it's super helpful for people that want to like take Flub's advice and try to do new things and try to pick new builds, and we were talking on Wednesday about a stale meta. Never before is there maybe more of a time that it's called for, as you mentioned, that to try to alleviate some of the boredom in a normal match by going a different direction. If you want it to be viable, if you want to potentially be on track to discover a new build, then there are things you have to take into consideration, or at least you would be well advised to take into consideration.
I mean, that's my Deso Lone Druid, right? Like I started playing that again because I was bored with my old stuff, and I've kind of changed it up a little bit, incorporated some of the new things I've learned, and like now that's how I'm playing it. But yeah, I mean, the general idea behind this isn't if you do this, you will find the perfect build on every hero. But in general, like if you're picking up a new hero and trying to make a new build, if it's a carry, ask yourself, do I have my sustain item? Do I have any farming speed in here at all very early on? Does it go into then a farming item after I've been farming? Do I have a damage item in here? Do I have survivability? Just ask yourself those questions when you're making the build. If you're playing a support, like, do I have enough? Should I be surviving here, or do I need to build like a small item to survive? Am I surviving? Do I need mobility now? That sort of thing. And as an offlaner, like, do I have any sustain right now? After I have sustain, do I have any
I suspect that a lot of this advice would be helpful. Going back and watching replays and watching replays for games that you lost, which I think a lot of people, one of the things I encouraged everybody to do whenever I solicited the folks for their match IDs for our November Patreon donations for replay reviews, which Proud, I think you got one done, and Ursi, I know, posted one already, and Razzie hit me up with his new match ID because we couldn't find that match a while back. But one of the things I encouraged all of them to do was like, hey, if you're doing this to have fun and have Ursi or Proud help you or congratulate you on a good match, hey, that's one thing. But if you actually want to get better, maybe send a match where you lost. You're probably going to get more out of that. And everything we've discussed here, if you're watching your own matches, and I know one of you fuckers out there listening to the show still goes brown boots and then rushes a fucking Battle Fury on AM. I know one of you guys out there does it. And hopefully this gives you a little bit of food for thought about why you shouldn't be doing that, about why, you can go back and look at your replay and say, oh, you know what? I didn't get a sustainability item before I built that. Or, oh, you know what? I tanked up, but I didn't have any damage. Or, oh, you know what? I built a lot of damage, but I didn't have a delivery method.
Yeah.
I think this provides at least a very basic framework. I feel all the better for it to go back and analyze your play for doing that.
Yeah. The biggest thing I see, I mean, you just kind of went through like a bunch of shit, but it's like, especially with the Battle Fury, it's like, okay, yeah, I built my farming item, but I don't have any basic stats to like build off of, right? Like everything in Dota is something of a modifier, like attack speed, damage, like crit, they're all modifiers on a base. If you don't have a strong base, like you can't utilize your Battle Fury on AM unless you at least have the treads for the health and the agi and the attack speed.
For sure.
Like,
I'm glad that I got to be on this episode. Yeah, I got one tangent, two in particular. So first, and they're all Roland based, and I get to do this because he's not here, and I get to talk a little shit on him. One, I can't tell you how many times in the last week and a half I have heard him pat himself on the back for Veno Jungle, which, one, I always try to, I haven't had the heart to critique him yet and be like, you can't take credit for playing a hero in the jungle and paving the way for that when you play every hero in the jungle. But he wants to get a pat on the back for Veno Jungle because he says he's seeing it everywhere at high levels of play and he's seeing it in a lot of pro matches. Is that true?
It's EG is playing it. It's decent. It's a very fast farmer. It's strong enough that Wings came up with counterplay to it, which was fucking hilarious, which is just walking a treant over there and one-shotting the wards and collecting gold, which is honestly the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in a pro match. It's the fucking, like, a jungle Veno in the dire jungle placing wards, and then a treant of all heroes comes up and is like, I am your counter. This is like, is this fucking professional?
Yeah,
like,
it seems a little trolly almost.
Really what it's come down to. It's just, there's like a Veno jungle and then a treant punching wards at level 1. Like, it's just absurd. But yeah, and I mean, like, Roland taking credit for that, not credit, obviously he's not the one who built it, but like, I was right kind of credit, like I told you kind of things. Kind of justified, kind of not. I mean, like, it, there was like a Leaf Eater video about it, right? Like, it's not like he came up with it. There have been multiple, like, even I played it like in like a pub once, and I like you can like use a or like two branches to like spawn trees to force yourself up on the spire and on like Radiant and like drop wards and kill the hard camp and ancients at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
So like whatever. I mean, it's a lot of people come out with a lot of different ways to do it as soon as piercing damage got changed.
Okay. So here's my next question, and this is kind of to help him out a little bit because he he is nearing. So his open Dota estimate on his MMR as he's getting close to calibrating here is 4113 as I'm looking at it now on December 1st. It's 4113. I know he's getting close to to being able to calibrate. And he was talking about how like nobody's going to believe it if I do calibrate that high, or even if I get into like the high 3Ks, nobody's going to believe me, or nobody's going to think it's worthwhile. I want to hit a couple of arguments off of the pass in case he does make it, and get your overall opinion on his play because you've been playing with him. Do you think? I see you guys have like 10 games in normal together on his Smurf account. Do you think that those games drastically influenced his MMR or his potential projection? Like just the
games that I played.
Did
like as
just in the skill level. Like, do you think your sheer presence in the game will drastically affect his MMR?
As
the number.
As far as like his personal MMR or like the number. Okay, so like I think
like are you inflating his score by playing 10 games with him?
Okay, no, I do not think so. My score is my score. I've never felt like unranked games are especially easy. That's because I mean, like, yeah, they're a little bit easier, but also I try way less. And I mean, we've won and lost games. Like when we were playing Tiny Mid or Tiny Wisp together, like a lot of those games were fucking hard. But I don't really think it affects that much. Like his win rate is already like 60%, and I'm pretty sure playing with me doesn't inflate that because like the game knows that I'm of a
I'm doing this more to defend him than anything. Hopefully, I hope that I'm laying the groundwork for him to defend his MMR. So now then, my next question is just generally, how do you feel about his skill level, having played those games with him and seeing where he's at?
When he plays with me, so I think he's gotten a lot better, like in the games that we've played together. I remember like when I first started playing with him, we're playing with him now. Like he is the fucking best follower of directions that I've ever had, besides a couple of people on my college team. And yeah, he makes mistakes sometimes, but they're like, I find myself getting mad at him for making kind of mistakes that I would get mad at like a fucking flub or a Fafnir for. But that comes out of like an expectation that, like,
which is a good sign,
won't be made and that sort of thing, right? So I definitely do have I have a pretty high opinion of. I think you phrased this beautifully, and this is something I've also said to him. It's like whenever he finds himself in a situation, he plays it correctly. He just always finds himself in the fucking wrong situation, right? Like once he's there, he's like, oh, I know how to play this.
Right.
But they're like, but you shouldn't have been there at all. And that's Roland. So when there's someone to guide him a little bit, he does like really well. And I feel like I'm gonna take some credit because like I've given him like a lot of guidance in the games that we've played together that you've said are super useful. So pay for coaching from Proud.
I've told him for a while. Like I like watching him mechanically, his mechanics are on point. I've known for a long time playing with him that like it was his decision making. I mean, and I think he's starting to realize that. And I know that on that Smurf, I know he's been giving it his damnedest to avoid making shit decisions.
Yeah. Well, that's I think you said at some point that he was like playing to entertain himself, and then he was right. I was just playing to entertain myself.
Well, and it's nice to see him starting to play to win. I wish he was doing that whenever we were playing together. But hey, whatever.
Right.
It is what it is.
He more than any other player I think I've ever played with has the ability to just fucking transform into a fuck ass at a moment's notice.
That's the perfect summation of playing with old Roland. And then I'll ask you one more question before we close it out. So I suspect that if because I do think he's going to place high.
I think he's going to place at around, like, he may place around like mid. If you want my honest opinion, his MMR right now about
3,300.
Like that's what like him as a person, like what his actual MMR and his body is, not like what the account's gonna calibrate at. So whatever happens, I think he's gonna like.
So, but you're talking about like I think his main account right now, like I think he even dipped below 2K because he just went on this run of like shit jungles. So to some people, I think they're going to hear that, and I think they're going to feel inspired to start up that second account. What do you have as far as words of wisdom go for those who are contemplating doing that?
This has given me a new opinion on the trench, because I had a friend, you met him, Michael.
Great guy.
He lived with us at TI, and he's a pretty good Dota player, honestly. Like he's fine. Like I can expect him to do things very similar to Roland. Honestly, they're very similar players, and I'd have games where I would play over his shoulder and I would just like kind of tell him what to do. And he kind of knew what I was going to say already, but it was just like so that he didn't fuck around and do stupid shit. And then like I'd watch him, I'd spectate games that he wasn't looking or that he didn't know I was watching, and he would just like do dumbass shit. And I mentioned, I was like, oh, why'd you do that? And he was like, oh, I don't really care. I'm like 2K. It doesn't matter. But like, yeah, there's a lot of people who are at that lower MMR because, and I hate the excuse of like, oh, I'm just here because I don't really care. But I mean, that is kind of true to a point. Like a lot of people, like once you get there, it seems insurmountable to be like, oh, am I really going to play like all these games at like a 55% win rate to slowly climb to like, mid 2K. And then there's another like till I ever get to 4K, which is also shit. So like, fuck it, whatever. Like there's a lot of people who can get like that. So if you feel like that's your, like if you're trying hard and you're still around 2K, like I don't think recalibrating is, within, and that's not to say like, you're a shit person if you're trying hard, but maybe if you find yourself not giving a shit about your games and it's just like, whatever, like give recalibration a chance. It's not too bad. You can even like, one of the ways you can gain experience we found is co-op bot matches. Like we were trying to sprint them out in like 15-minute co-op bot matches so that he would get calibrated before the fucking child came. And that was honestly super fun. I was having like a really shit day, and it's just like, let's just fucking like, I'm gonna play Husker, you're gonna play Drow, and we're gonna time it.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it was fun. Anyway, so yeah, like if you aren't taking your game seriously and just want to give it another shot, try recalibration. If you are taking your game seriously, maybe don't worry about it. And also if you're not taking your game seriously, there's a very high chance you actually are, and you're just saying that to
I half suspect because he and I did that smurf run, I want to say it was like 8 months ago or 6 months ago, and when we got about halfway through it, we started just playing with his wife, who was brand new at the time. And it was a blast because we were back in those low skill games and winning. But I told him the entire time, I was like, man, I suspect that we're just damaging our accounts further, by playing with like, as shitty as it sounds, but by playing with less skilled players. So I was curious to see where he would wind up this time around. And, I mean, it's looking good for him, for sure. All right. Well, do you have anything else?
Should we close it out?
We're sitting just shy of an hour and a half. Oh, okay, cool.
All right, so we still got 30 minutes.
So, how was your day?
I feel like I need to give support and offlane a little bit more attention, because that's where not really anyone besides Ursinity. No, okay, I'm just gonna drag Ursinity. So this is such a piece of shit. So on his fucking like on that was it like the Wednesday show or whatever, he was like getting all fucking tilted that like people are like treating us like as equal skill or whatever because we got 5K at the same time. And he was just like bragging about how he fucking like played a bunch of shit, like, oh, I played Juggernaut or Sven for one of our last games. Like, bitch, I played fucking like Night Stalker for like my like 4th to last game and like shit like that. Yeah, I played a lot of Drow, but like whatever, dude. You fucking played a lot of shit too. Like, you play Invoker a bunch. I mean, not a bunch. You didn't really play cool that much. We play a lot of fucking support.
I don't know.
Great. Whatever, dude.
I see no versatility in your matches. I'm sorry. Yep, none whatsoever. There's no versatility.
What?
It's all just straight.
Oh
draw.
yeah, if you look at my account right now. Yeah, that's
okay.
because we played co-op bot matches where I played like 12 drow games in a row trying to get Roland his MMR. Believe it or not. No, my versatility. I've been playing a lot of Juggernaut team games though, but that's just because
Oh
first
yeah,
picker
fair
for
enough.
Affinity. Then he
Well,
decided
you
to
got to
try
work
something
around the
else.
best on the team.
Yeah, but no, I mean, yeah, it is true. Like, I got 5K while I was learning Drow. That's how I'd like to phrase it. And I played a good amount of Drow, but I also, like, the game that I wanted on was with PA, safe lane, doing my shit. So I feel like I got, I got 5K the way Proud gets 5K, which is playing what he's good at. And that was a bunch of carries and Night Stalker, apparently. And I won a fucking Axe game.
I understand, all right?
All right, Cyphus. I'm a kind boy. I'm nice to this fucking child. He's like 18 and shit. And he fucking comes on my podcast network and is like, yo, I hate that everyone thinks I'm just as good as the guy who fucking captains me. Like, yeah, bitch, I'm your captain. I tell you what to do.
Yeah, I thought the captain was always the best player on the team. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, if you were to ask me straight up, Ursinity in general is a better like mechanical Dota player. Obviously, like I'm way better at carry than he is, and probably better at like last hitting and that sort of thing. But like overall, like yeah, if I were to have him like play a position or whatever, like he's definitely better support than me. I'm probably at least a slightly better offlaner than him on specific heroes. I'm better than him at some mid heroes. He's better than me on most mid heroes. He can't jungle for shit, which is whatever. But like a lot of my skill is like in the way that I communicate and the way that I like talk to other players and make calls and like know when to back and that sort of thing. So like, if you wanted to view Dota specifically, just the buttons you press, it's pretty even, but probably slightly tilted on him. But if you want to take the whole in Dota, like captaining and like and drafting too, and knowing what picks are good and that sort of thing, like I don't really
clearly you're the best, is what you're saying.
No, we're about equal. I would say like if you take everything into account, like I think me and Ursinity are like very, very, very equal players. Regardless of what Ursinity's ego wants to say. But I love my boy, and I think we're just as good as each other. And I'm sorry.
Well, according to Dota, your MMR is 5016, and Ursi's is 5013. If I'm to use the metric provided to me, you're 3 points better. That's I don't have any other metrics. The only metric we have available to us, the only measurement we actually have is that number, and yours is bigger. So it's at least worth noting. Open Dota has your estimated MMR at 4689 and Ursi's at 4349. So Open Dota thinks you're a better player.
There's the fucking public MMR they can look at.
Yeah, they think you're a lot worse.
What do we think about that?
According to Open Dota. But still better than Ursi.
Yeah, well, okay, that's fair. They're probably... Yeah, well, I'm sure his is low because he plays with all those, and like he plays on like a lot of lower MMR.
No, I think Open Dota accounts for that. I'm just trying to help your argument here.
All right,
okay?
Well, whatever. I'm glad to... Okay, no, see, I'm a man free of all biases, and I want Ursinity to be happy, but I don't want to get dragged on his fucking show.
Oh, fair enough.
Anyway, enough of that. I mean, all hams are created equal. Yeah. Side note: when I used to play a little bit more shooters, like I was playing Battlefield Bad Company 2, I had a friend who called ammo ham, and I just started playing Stalker again, Shadow of Chernobyl. And whenever I'm out of ammo, I'm like, damn it, I'm out of ham. And
that's good.
It's really fun to say. Yeah, just change that saying ammo with
I'm all
ham,
about it.
And it's,
sign
your
me
life
up.
will be better.
All right. Well, do we have anything else? What else we got?
I don't know. I already missed my final review. I thought we were gonna end in time for. Turns out it was an hour earlier than I thought.
I'm sorry. I have to record in 25 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, this is more important than my future. So.
All right, let's.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that Roland's child is going to grow up rich.
Yeah, that's what we're all banking on at this point.
So.
Yep. Oh,
Charlie, get me.
I'm
my
looking
food.
forward to the
X-Men
quotes. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, dude, that looks. I was really hoping for a Scott because everyone knows I'm a Cyclops fan. But Xavier is. I don't want to say this wrong, but like Xavier is not the
you
greatest
mean
role model, right?
you mean an old man, an old bald guy in a wheelchair who likes to collect runaway children isn't a good role model?
And then like use them as his paramilitary force to push his
He's an
half-baked ideals
idealist.
that never come to fruition. And like keeps it. Yeah. Well, guess how that worked out? They're all fucking dead.
Magneto was right. I'm
Magneto
excited for
was
that,
right.
That Logan movie. I realize we're way off topic here, but man.
Oh yeah.
And getting that
that's
confirmation
gonna
that
be
it will
cool.
be rated R. It just sounds like
Yes.
the
Oh my
perfect.
God.
It sounds like a comic book movie that was made for me. You know.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like, man, you know what? What if we like did Wolverine like correctly?
And for the
once?
last
That'd be
time,
sick.
sadly, with
and I'm
Hugh
like,
Jackman.
hell yeah. Yeah, I'm not that big.
Yeah,
of a
I
Wolverine
think it'll
fan,
be
to be honest, but I'm looking
stylistically,
forward to
it may be X-Men at its finest. And it's a shame that we haven't had these like offshoot movies that take in some of this ancillary or auxiliary, maybe is a better word for it, auxiliary material, and use that as like one-offs. Like why do I have to see like a trilogy of Batman movies every fucking time Batman gets rebooted? You know what I mean? Why can't I have these like one-off? Here's this actor playing this hero or this villain or, you know, in this particular offshoot story.
Yeah, right. Where's my I'm trying to think of like a DC character. Like, where's my Green Arrow movie? I mean, no, they have the show now and all that shit. But like a fucking black cat. That'd be sick.
There are so many great characters and just even so many different variations on that universe that would be worth delving into. I mean, look at all those Frank Miller novels about Batman being old. You know, those would be. I mean, that would be an incredible, you know, movie or two. You know, I'd be down to go watch that.
Yeah, man.
Before he was a complete asshole.
Fucking insane.
Although he's kind of always been an asshole.
Totally fucking insane. Anyway, yeah, I just want Cyclops to be portrayed positively in any well-known public media. That way, I can like stop getting shit for how Cyclops is the worst X-Men, even though if you know shit about comics, he's the fucking.
He has the lamest power.
Oh my god! Fuck off. Oh my god, his power is so cool. He can't even fucking see. He's like one of the few mutants who actually has a power that like negatively affects their life. Oh my god. He carries the fucking cross on his back. Dude,
I'd go oh my god. I'd go with any of the mutants that have like massive physical deformities, probably have it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Like I mean even any of the more mainstream ones. Beast has it terribly. You know, look at that poor bastard. You want to hang out with Beast? You know, you want to go over to
but Cyclops thing is great. Like it's this whole fucking metaphor for like self-restraint and that sort
all
of
right,
shit.
you can
Cyclops.
So am I closing her out? Are you closing her out? What are we doing? Okay, yeah.
I just want to talk about
okay,
Cyclops.
fair enough.
So if we're gonna close
if you guys want to find us, we are at defenseofthepatients.com, on Twitter at @p_show. If you want to find more builds like this, where can they go, Proud? Do we have a place where they could go? Yeah, I guess nowhere. So if you want more builds. Oh, yeah.
.pbuilds.tumblr.com. If you want to see my builds and
fair enough. That's absolutely where you should go to find more builds. And as we get closer to rolling out the new version of the website, we talked to Silver Fox again like a week or so ago, and I know that's getting close. I think it's going to be up so we can all go look at it and get a preview here soon. But whenever that goes up, we'll be putting the builds directly on the website. You can also find us on patreon.com/defense of the patients if you want to support the show. Just go swing by there. You can pay $20. You can have Proud take a look at your build. He can dig into the nitty gritty of your specific build and tell you what you fucked up, what you did wrong. You know.
If you just want just straight up coaching, I offer that now. Getting that going. Just email defense of the patient, or is it?
Yep, that's right.
At gmail.com. Is that our? All right, just for now, just do that. And I'll give you a direct line to talk to me, or message me on Discord. Fucking whatever. But yeah, between there's like I play a game with you in lane, do the coaching thing in game, go over replays, fill a little bit of time we got left with whatever 1v1's mid or just conversation you want to have. All that's good.
And you can get a direct pathway to Proud by going to discord.gg/.p. You'll see all of us there. That's where we all hang out. It's usually pretty lively in there. I mean, it's lively in there almost 24/7. Email Tuesday Q&A questions to defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. I thought that you and me would be the ones to like really burn through some questions, but I guess we didn't really get through that many on last Tuesday.
Yeah, I just decided that I wanted to talk.
That's fair enough.
And I didn't really
we'll get to more of them. And if we don't get to them, folks, keep sending them. And if you don't hear it on the next Tuesday Q&A, that does not mean that we're not going to get to your question. It just means we're a little late getting to your question. We'll do it in a future episode.
Well, not late. Maybe we decided it would be better.
That too.
Host answered that question. Maybe just so happens that Ursinity sucks at answering that shit, so we got to keep delaying your questions until I have time in my busy schedule.
Well, that's how I look at it is, half the time you have Roland and Ursinity there answering questions, and it's like...
And then who's going to...
Nothing.
What
not anything. Not with any thought.
Yeah, it's like, how do I play Invoker? In the jungle! That's when you get that too.
But with the exception of jungler Invoker questions, not much is going to get answered when they're there. But don't worry, when Proud and I are on, we'll take care of it. I think that's it. That sounds like most of the plugs. Twitch.tv/.ptv, where you can watch hamstream practices. Roland will probably not be doing as much streaming as he has recently, at least for the next little while.
He should stream diaper changing.
that is truly the trench. Let's see. And youtube.com/.ptv1. That's where you can see those replay reviews if you get them through Patreon. That's where you'll have access to those. And
yep, mine's actually done now and processed. It took for fucking ever to render that goddamn video. Oh my god. Dude, all I wanted to do was just splice in like a fucking 30-second clip and like...
Yeah, it takes a while. What are you using to edit? Oh, okay. I need to get something decent. I'm gonna work on a video here shortly. I'm not looking forward to doing that way.
Yep.
Yeah, I will. I totally should. Juice, we'll give him a shout out. He's a sound engineer, has been helping us a lot. Juice, if you're listening, Zencaster completely fucked me in Proud again today. Don't know why. It hates us.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of layer some pressure on him after saying no. Anyway, Juice and I are going to work on a Lone Druid video. We decided to delay it until after the patch because they might just change everything and then the video would be stupid. So I'll be on break soon, and then I'm gonna make the real video to be like, yo, this is Lone fucking Druid, fam.
There's no way we're getting a patch until after the Boston Major, basically, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. So I'm waiting until.
And do you believe the set dates that are out there? Okay. All right.
Monday sounds good. I mean, the patch has obviously been ready for a while. Like, I mean, maybe they'll change a little bit after the major, but the major will happen. It'll end on like Saturday or something, right? And then there's like a day to get everything.
Yeah, I wonder. So it's fine. I'm always skeptical.
I don't.
I'm a skeptic.
Well, that's your fault. Maybe it'll come Tuesday at the latest, but I mean, I'm gonna be at Skrunk's house, like ready to fucking go. I'm gonna bring my whole monitor and all that.
That's right. And Ursi and Proud, or you're gonna be there, right, at the Boston Major? All right, they're gonna be there. They're in attendance as press. Dude. So keep an eye out for a couple of short guys, wandering around. Oh, okay, and one normal sized guy. So if you see two short guys and one normal sized guy, those are some .p folks. So go say hi to them. And then if they don't know what you're talking about, apologize and explain to them that you shouldn't have approached a random stranger based off of that limited amount of information. Oh, yeah, and remind them that Defense of the Patients is a Dota 2 podcast. And check us out on our subreddit, run by Mr. Jay Gushi. Defense of the Patients is a subreddit. I think that's it. You good?
Yeah, well, there's also a flub with
yeah. I know you wanted to drop him down to like 1.4, 1.5. I just... Yeah, that's right.
Get some bee reduction surgery.
He did.
He got his bees reduced.
He was at like a BB, and he wanted to be more like an AB.
He was getting the bees were kind of his back
too many
bees,
much,
too many carrying bees. Him around all day.
He's got a lot of B.
Too,
Yeah.
Just,
yep. Yeah. So we knock him
a lot
back
of
a
B
little
on that
bit.
B.
Yeah.
Flub with 1.6
No.
Bs.
No.
We couldn't
I
let
might
all
even
that
take
B
some
go
of
to
his B.
waste.
You know, I could use a little B. Yeah. Why not? Who
Okay.
couldn't? What's that?
You know what I could use?
And on that note, until next time, this is Cyphus from Proud.
Yep. Welcome to Proudlands. We're proud. Welcome to. Well, can you give a little beat to? Wait, we're gonna do a dual beat.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna start, and
Okay,
you're gonna
all right.
follow it up, and then we're just gonna lead it out.
Boom, boom, ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da. I'm bad at this.